It's the end of the year, that's 2025 for anyone watching far in the future, so I figured it was time to review my year of reviews. Now, when I review a book, I usually just explain what worked and what didn't work for me, and I don't do a star rating or a number rating, but for this video, I'm going to provide a definitive good or bad, yes or no, thumbs up or thumbs down decision for each book I reviewed this year. I'll either be roasting a book, ugh, or toasting it. Yay! Either way, it's about to get hot in here. I mean, it's literally hot in here. Australian summer, it's brutal, but not as brutal as these upcoming roasts. Also, some people have requested that I roast my own novel, Demonology and the Art of Pickling Demons, which I will do at the end. When I'm done with it, no one will ever read it again.
No fluff writing advice. Cut the fluff!
Quick disclaimer, while I'll either be roasting or toasting in this video, I do praise and critique elements of every book in the full reviews, so don't think a roasted book is all bad or a toasted book is all good. Now that we're on the same page, let's get into it. The very first book I reviewed, Brandon Sanderson's Wind and Truth. Am I roasting it or toasting it? Roasting for sure. Ugh. I'm a huge Brandon Sanderson fan, but this cringy self-help book disguised as an epic fantasy is a tough read. Sure, it has some great moments, but you could literally cut half the book and it would be epically better. I have a feeling Sando either stopped paying attention to his editors or they stopped being real with him. Either way, Wind and Truth made me seriously wonder if Sanderson has lost the magic. Next, we have my introduction to Lit RPG, Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinnerman. Going in, I had no idea what Lit RPG even was, but I never would have guessed it was what I got with Book 1 of DCC. This one gets a toast. It's a well-structured, humorous ride through the dungeon that, well, ultimately tricked me into reading more in the genre. Now I've gone too far into the Lit RPG dungeon to turn back. To get out, we must go through. I enjoyed Dungeon Crawler Carl so much, I went straight to book 2, Carl's Doomsday Scenario. Another book worthy of a toast. Maybe an even bigger toast. In book 2, we start to get a better understanding of the overall situation the characters are in. It doesn't feel like just dungeon crawling. There are plenty of other moving parts, and Dinnerman does a great job of making the story feel fresh by changing not just the setting, but also the dynamics between certain characters. 3 books in, and this is my favourite of the series so far. Ooh, do I sense a book 3 roast incoming? That one's a borderline case for me. Before we get to that tough decision, let's discuss the next book I reviewed. Yeah, I wanted to mix it up a bit, so I took a chance on Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Definite roast. Ugh. I've described this book as a burning pile of literary garbage. Yeah, it's a bit over the top and it's not that bad, but it's one of the most popular books I reviewed this year. I'd give it my 2025 How Is This Popular award, if such an award existed. There's so much in this book that doesn't make sense. To see such amateur writing in a traditionally published book that has, what, probably sold 1 million copies, it makes me question the very nature of existence. I feel like we're all part of some cosmic prank. Whatever the case, the author's rolling in money, so I can't say she's wrong. Alright, this is a tough one, not because it's a tough decision, but because whenever I say anything critical about this series, passionate fans appear behind me in a puff of smoke to tell me how wrong I am. I'm a dipshit. I don't understand character development. I can't say those things aren't true, but what's also true is He Who Fights With Monsters, Book 1 by Scherderloon, is getting a roast. Ugh. My problem is, it actually starts off pretty well. There's genuine tension and a compelling moral dilemma for our protagonist, Jason Asano, but then the tension melts away, never to return again. It's like the author sets us up with a false promise at the start, and the rest of the book fails to deliver. While Jason has one of the most punchable personalities to ever grace the page, it's not his actual character that made this a tough read. It's the lack of genuine tension and conflict he experiences after the exciting opening. Other characters are allowed to struggle, but Jason just breezes through life, one smug comment at a time. With this next book, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Morningwood, Everybody Loves Large Chests by Nevin Iliev. That's got to be straight smut, right? Wrong. This book gets a toast because while there are a few smutty scenes, there's also a wild concept and some pretty solid storytelling and humor around it. The main character is a treasure chest. More specifically, he's a chess-shaped mimic. Thus began my journey into the world of non-human protagonists, a journey I may have taken too far. Ah, look at that. Sanderson's back with the Isles of the Emberdark. Can he redeem himself after the wind and truth fail? Yeah, I give this one a toast. It uses some previously written material, but has enough new content to feel like a fresh serving. Weird world, great characters. Dusk is one of my favourite Sanderson characters. He's both incredibly wise and incredibly naive at the same time. He has a very unique personality. Has Sanderson reclaimed the magic? Well, let's see what happens in 2026. Next, I took another step into the lit RPG genre with Primal Hunter by Zogarth. So this is a tough one, to roast or to toast. I'm going to give it a toast. I have some issues with this book. I'm toasting, so I won't get into them now, but the action scenes are well written, the system's interesting, and book one has some great moments and characters, including William and the Smith. In my opinion, it's a pretty solid start to the series. Ah, here we go, The Wandering Inn by Pyritaba. Straight up, it gets a toast. I feel like I shouldn't like this book. It combines slow-paced storytelling with some fairly unlikable viewpoint characters, but the author has built a fascinating world and maintains a decent level of conflict and tension throughout, despite the slow pace. And when you get to that runaway cart of an ending, careening off the road, you actually appreciate the slow build-up. I know some people can't stomach this series, but I consider book one, at least, a masterclass in slow-paced storytelling. Next, we have Joe Abercrombie's The Devils. This was a tough one because I'd heard Abercrombie described as the guy who could finish George R.R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire series, so I expected a certain type of story, and it wasn't what I got. This does get a toast, because partway through I learnt to embrace The Devils for what it is, a wacky exercise in character exploration. Seriously, for such a silly concept and story, Abercrombie has written some pretty deep and realistic characters, definitely a strong point of the book. Oh no, here we go again. He Who Fights with Monsters Book 2. Did it get better? Look, it's another roast. Ugh. Many of my book 2 critiques are the same as book 1. I see so much wasted potential. The author Scherderloon frequently sets up what could be great sources of conflict, internal and external, but those moments are wasted. The protagonist, Jason Asano, just breezes through them too easily. Make these moments count. That's my main issue with the series so far. I see so much potential, but in my mind it's squandered. It almost gets there, but the execution is just off. Hey, maybe it gets better. I haven't completely written the series off. Ah, here we go. A solid toast. Columbus Day Expeditionary Force Book 1 by Craig Allenson. Here's a book where the main character, Joe Bishop, does face genuine moral dilemmas. He has to make tough calls. There's genuine tension and solid storytelling all throughout. One of my top books of the year. I need to get on to book 2. Ooh, here's a solid roast. Ugh. Verity by Colleen Hoover, another super popular book that defies the laws of good sense. This one almost could have been good, but most of the plot relies on several characters doing the dumbest things possible. It just doesn't make sense half the time. The story is presented as this big mystery. What's happening here? I'm sure the answers will blow my mind when the author does the big reveal. Nope, no answers. You decide what happened. Wait, what? Hey, that's not how it works. Then I read the bonus chapter online, and don't do it, it gets worse. Here's one I was hesitant to read. Discount Dan's Backroom Bargains, Book 1 by James Hunter. Oh, is this a Dungeon Crawler Carl ripoff? If it was, it wouldn't be getting a toast. While Discount Dan does seem to be inspired by Dungeon Crawler Carl, it has its own thing going on. Great humour, compelling concept, solid storytelling. Now, this might be the most generic feeling lit RPG novel I read this year. One More Last Time, Good Guys Book 1 by Eric Ugland. Yep, it's getting a roast. Ugh. This book is just, it's fine, it's okay. It doesn't compel me to want to read more of the series. I can't even remember what my main critiques were, so we'll just move on. Oh, here's one of the biggest surprises of the year. Player Manager Book 1 by Ted Steele. I can't believe I'm toasting a lit RPG book about managing a soccer team, but Here we are. It is astonishing how exciting the author makes soccer seem. It's such an entertaining book with plenty of solid British humour. Like I did, you may assume this book just has to suck, no way around it, but it doesn't. It's good. Oh, another big surprise. Chrysalis Book 1, The Ant Venture Begins. An eye roll for the title and a passionate toast for the book overall and for the colony. I never thought I'd care so much about a colony of ants. What's happening to me? If you don't know, the protagonist Anthony gets reincarnated as an ant monster in a dungeon. He's such a strange, interesting, and dare I say, adorable character, and Chrysalis probably has one of the most unique and complex systems I've come across so far. It's super creative. I'm reading book 2 right now, and it just gets better. This could end up being a top tier series. Oh, look, we're back in the dungeon with Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 3, the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook. For me, this is the weakest book in the series so far, but is it roastable? No, it's not. While I have some issues with the book, there's some great character development and character moments, so overall, it's a toast. There are certain series I hold to a higher standard. It's like the high achiever at school. They're usually perfect, so everyone expects perfection every time. Not really fair, is it? Ah, I'd forgotten about this one. I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. Genuine tough call. I feel like I can only recommend this one to people if they're willing to read it twice because you don't know what you're reading until the twist at the end. I'm gonna give it a tentative toast because regardless of how I feel about some aspects of the book, the author does a great job of, how would you say it, weirding you out. Everything just feels so off. There's an underlying creepiness to every action, every word. It's actually quite impressive how unsettling the story is, even when, maybe especially when you have no idea what's wrong. You just know something is wrong. And I did need to read it twice, but maybe I'm just an unobservant fool. Next, Primal Hunter Book 2 by Zogarth. Book 1 got a toast. Book 2 gets a roast. Ugh. Yes, it has some great moments, but overall the plot just feels tedious and there's so much filler and over-explaining. It's like being waterboarded with exposition, and we're still just pottering around the tutorial. Just get on with it. I will read book 3. I haven't written the series off. There's a lot I do like about it. There's a lot I like about this next book too. Industrial Strength Magic, Book 1 by Macronomicon. It gets a well-earned toast. I can't believe a superhero book managed to hook me. Don't we all have superhero fatigue at this point? Not only is Industrial Strength Magic fun, funny, and entertaining, but the storytelling's pretty tight. Great characters, solid plot, and interesting class for our protagonist Perry. Super unique and creative. I really should get to book 2 soon. Ooh, here's one I took a big chance on. Merchant Crab by Host. I found out about this one from the author's promotional post on Reddit. The author says it's good. They wouldn't lie about that, would they? No, they wouldn't. Or they didn't in this case. Merchant Crab gets a toast. As in a toast, not toasted bread, which I'm sure Balthazar would prefer. As the title suggests, our protagonist Balthazar is indeed a crab and a merchant. Even though it's a wacky concept, there are plenty of real emotional moments and genuine character development. I haven't mentioned any narrators yet. I mean, everyone knows Jeff Hayes rules. Do you know who else rules? Jonathan McLean. He does some wild voices and might be the best comedic narrator I've heard so far. So many well-delivered, well-written lines. The perfect combo. Second last book of the year, Unsold, Cradle Book 1 by Will White. It's a toast. I love the win-at-all-costs nature of our protagonist, Lyndon, which makes sense considering his situation. The culture and world feel real and lived in, and it's a solid story overall. It perfectly sets up the Cradle series, and I'm excited to read more. Now for my final book of the year, Mage Tank Book 1 by Cornman. Here I'm going to do a toast and a roast. A toast to the book and a roast to me, because it seems some of my critiques were just me missing things. Hey, it happens when you read audiobooks. I often get interrupted, miss a chunk, and don't have my hands free to skip back. Alright, on to the toast. Mage Tank might be the most consistently funny book I've read this year, and the authors I've found out it's co-authored, they pretty much nail all the most important storytelling mechanics. Plot, pacing, characters, dialogue, world building, everything. To me, it feels like a super accessible lit RPG novel, much like Dungeon Crawler Carl. I plan to recommend it to people wanting to dive into the genre for the first time. It has all the expected lit RPG mechanics and tropes, it captures the essence of the genre well, but it's also super entertaining and follows a more traditional storytelling structure rather than the what I consider a soap opera style structure some popular series follow. Funnily, my final book of the year might be my favourite. It just does everything I want from a novel. Before we move on to the final and most brutal roast of the video, let's look at the numbers. For 2025, in total, we have 7 roasts and a whopping 17 toasts. That's a good ratio. What a great year. To the commenter who said, I hate every book, the numbers say otherwise. Maybe I should use numbers more often. All right, the final roast of the year, Demonology and the Art of Pickling Demons by me. Firstly, some of the dialogue in this book is awkward at best. It's as if the authors never had a conversation with another living human, or even overheard a conversation between two humans. The use of subtlety and subtext really is a dying art, or in the case of this book, a dead art. I mean, who is this book even written for? It reads like YA, but skips a lot of the tropes people read young adult fiction for. Not a single love interest in sight. This author clearly doesn't know his target audience, or even which audience he's trying to target. The protagonist, Malamark Murphy, what sort of name is that? Is such an uninspiring character. His biggest achievement is figuring out how to pickle demons, and it was an accident. He's just some fool, a run-of-the-mill pickler, a literal pickler who got lucky. Oh, and the pacing. Slow down, man. Give me time to catch my breath and process what the hell just happened. You are allowed to take your foot off the throttle occasionally. Look, I could forgive the breakneck pacing if it at least slowed down at the end, all that build-up, and it just ends like that. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy this video, hit subscribe anyway and hate watch my content. That's always fun.